Welcome into K-State Online. I am Mason Voth. That is Drew Galloway. Monday, April 21st. The transfer portal window, it closes tomorrow. Guys can still commit after that point, but if you're going to leave somewhere, you have to be in by tomorrow. So that means we're going to talk transfer portal today because K-State added another player through the portal over the weekend. This is one that they really wanted. It moved rather quickly as a lot more of their portal targets have this cycle. Last year, I think or the last couple of years, really, there have been more drawn out processes. When they identify a guy that they really want and they get him, it tends to move rather quickly. I think that's probably by design, given the way that certain things have transpired over the last couple of years in the portal where they think they've got a guy and then boom, he's just yanked out from under K-State and he's off to somewhere else. Think about was it 4th of July weekend? Not last summer, but the summer prior to that, where it was Joe Toussaint, and then there was one more that was it Wag?
Muhammad Wag.
That K-State thought that they had locked in. So Joe Toussaint, the Iowa transfer, or I guess he was a West Virginia transfer at that point. They were both West Virginia transfers, actually, I think, at that stage of the game. Either way, K-State wanted him, thought that they had him, and then just as it seemed like things were going to finish up, boom, Toussaint was off to Texas Tech, and Wag, I think, ended up at Alabama. K-State and Alabama seem to be involved with the same guys every offseason in the transfer portal. But this year, it seems like K-State has done a better job of trying to keep things a little bit more under wraps and certainly not get the hope up too high to where, you don't have those moments where you thought somebody was dragged in and then, all of a sudden, nope, they're not here. Then in addition to that, we also have some of the international news that we'll talk about here in a little bit as well. But let's get into it, Drew. Nate Johnson is the pickup from Akron. Interesting because he's the number 52 ranked player in the transfer portal. That's pretty good this stage of the game when there's, well over 400 players in the portal at this point. Averaged 14 points per game last year, nearly 5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 1 year to play. But why he's so interesting is that he does things on both sides of the ball. He was the MAC player of the year, but he was also their defensive player of the year. So this is a guy that is going to come in, and much to what I pointed out at different times last year with the Brendan Hazen situation, you can bring a guy like Brendan Hazen in, but don't expect him to play good defense. He should be your worst defender on the floor. You need to have guys that can help pick him up. We know that that's a weakness of Abdi Bashir that was brought in, that people are like, he can't play defense. Well, K-State went out and got a guy that is going to be your best defender in Nate Johnson, and he can do some of the offensive things as well, get rebounds, create for others, also score himself. So this is a strong pickup for K-State.
Yeah, this is a very, very good pickup. I'm torn on this because it was something that we kind of brought up in the chat. Is Nate Johnson the most decorated transfer that K-State's brought in the Jerome Tang era? He's MAC Player of the Year, MAC Defensive Player of the Year, was MAC Tournament Player of the Year this year.
Guy likes winning awards. So, I don't know. I would throw out there that maybe Tyler Perry would be in that same realm. He was the Player of the Year. He won the NIT MVP. So
it's definitely Johnson or Tyler Perry if you really dive in, and I think that's what makes this pickup such a fun one. And why everybody seems to be really excited for it, because he can do things on both ends of the floor. I mean, we know how good of a defender he is, but he also had games where when Akron needed it in the MAC semifinals, in a game that was very high scoring for an Akron game this past year in the semifinals, 100-90. Johnson goes for 31 to save them from going out in the semifinals. Then in the finals, Akron was kind of dead in the water for most of that game. Johnson goes for 22, including hitting the game winner to send Akron to the NCAA tournament. So you really like what he brings. You like that he's kind of that dog mentality of a lead guard. I'm not quite sure if he's a point guard, but I think that he is a good enough creator and ball handler that they can kind of do this by committee. And like we'll get into this a little bit with how the roster is kind of shaping up to be. They don't necessarily need him to be a point guard, like in the true sense of the word, because they could have a lot of ball handlers put together. So you kind of look at that and you're like, okay, that checks another box. He's the kind of player that I think we all want K-State to get from the portal because he's a guy that has played at the lower level, has won a lot, and is now getting a shot at the power 4 level. So that again checks another box. The only real knock that I have on him, and it is such a small sample size, but in the 2 games that he played against NCAA tournament teams this year, he wasn't necessarily great or efficient. But how much of that was in the game against Arizona? Akron was dead to rights from the jump. Like they didn't look like they could compete at that level. And then against St. Mary's, they lost, I think, by like 19. So like they were not a good team collectively when they played top competition. But this one is an addition where, kind of unlike Abdi Bashir, who I think can be a good player, it's a lot easier to squint and see how things work out for K-State more with somebody like Nate Johnson.
Yeah, this is one of those that I've referenced a couple of times where just because you maybe don't like the way things have played out with the staff and the last 2 seasons, and you don't have to crown them now. Like I'm not saying this is an NCAA tournament team or a team that finishes in the top 10 of the Big 12 next year, but like you're saying, you can squint and see the path a little bit easier. This is a very good addition for them. So, you just because you don't like something or you don't want to give credit, you need to at least when it's there. And this was a solid pickup for K-State. But as you laid out, like there are some things to maybe question in this. And I think it's more than just I didn't play well against 2 NCAA tournament teams. I don't really care about that. When you only play 2 of them, okay, you could have 2 bad nights, and it was more beneficial for him with the MAC to have bad nights against them as opposed to Bowling Green or whoever they're playing on a nightly basis. Like bad games are going to happen. Some guys have the luxury of doing it against bad teams, and other guys it'll just happen when you play good teams, especially when you look at the rest of Akron. I would imagine St. Mary's and Arizona were both just kind of like, well, this Nate Johnson guy is about all we need to worry about. And they were probably right in that because he was the MAC player of the year and the defensive player of the year. My concern would come from a couple of things. The first one may not be a big deal right now because, don't count all your eggs before they hatch. But the whole lead guard situation that K-State is in right now, they don't have one. And based on what their goals are and what they've already landed, I think they are going to end up with another a lot of guys that can handle the ball in certain situations. And that can probably do a lot for you throughout the course of a game. I do still think that it's going to ultimately be important that in certain scenarios, you need a guy that is a legitimate ball handler, and that's the dude that has the ball in his hands towards the end of the game. Somebody that can create for himself, whether it's driving or shooting or whatever. And, Bashir might have a little bit more of that in him because of how he had to play at Monmouth. But again, like we're talking about guys that are having to make significant jumps this upcoming year where they're going from where they were in their conferences last season to the Big 12 and now having to be starters in all of that. And if you're, trying to break down where you would think that the hierarchy of these conferences go, it's not like the CAA and the MAC are highly rated when people talk about what they've got going on basketball wise. So that's going to be something that you have to keep in mind. They're bumping up a level, a significant level. What is the expectation of them now? And if if Akron wouldn't let Nate Johnson be their point guard, but people in the K-State, I'm not even saying the coaches right now, but I think there's some sentiment and thought from fans that like that's going to be what happens. I'm not saying he's not capable of it, but that's a pretty substantial jump to go from not being the main ball handler for your Akron team and then being expected to go do it in the Big 12. That's going to be difficult. So I would throw that out there. The other element of this is like he's not a great shooter. He shot 30% last year, which based off everything else he does, like you can live with, it can be sustained. And I would also say this because I had somebody yesterday point out to me, oh, well, he's not a great shooter. He's going to take all these shots because Jerome Tango let him. I was like, well, he only took 3.5 threes a game at Akron, and he was their best player. Like, I think he's a smart player. I think you have to be a certain type of guy to be the defensive player of the year in any conference. So he has that going for him. And for a 30% shooter that's the best player on your team to only take 3.5 a game, you can live with that. But it's going to be a lot trickier, I think, in the Big 12. Again, like you're going to need some more of that. And you can't put a ton of guys out there that aren't going to be able to shoot the basketball. So does the shot hold him back in any way? So that would be one of the other things. The good news is he's a good free throw shooter over his career. He was 80% last year. He was 75% the year before. I think this is a really good get for K-State. But again, there are the things to lay out that would make you say, I think some people are way overvaluing what this move was. And I think there are a lot of people that are being woefully unfair to the coaching staff and the program right now to poo-poo the addition of Nate Johnson. I think it's somewhere in the middle. I know we live in a world where being in the middle does you no good. You got to be one way or the other pretty drastically, as we've seen. But I'm probably upper middle on Nate Johnson, where I think it's a really good move, but I'm also in the camp of none of this means jack until we see K-State win games they're supposed to win next season.
No, I'm with you. That I think that it is somewhere in the middle. I don't think that it's like a crazy like K-State's going to make the NCAA tournament right now because they landed Nate Johnson. But I also kind of roll my eyes a little bit at the people that are so anti what K-State is doing right now that they can't stop and smell the roses and just like take the win. So I'm with you. I'm like upper middle on this. And likely that's kind of where it will be because it doesn't have to be one extreme or the other. It's likely somewhere in the middle. You mentioned that Johnson's a good free throw shooter. Not only is he a good free throw shooter, he gets to the free throw line a lot. And that's just something that K-State hasn't had the last few seasons. I think that if you're telling me, like, gun to my head right now, is Nate Johnson a better fit with Abdi Bashir or is Doug McDaniel? I would say Johnson. And I don't really think that it's close because I think that you needed somebody that is a guard. Because lead guard is going to be kind of maybe a by committee approach for K-State right now. So I think that you might not be the lead guard, but you needed a guard that could really defend and really bring it on that end of the floor every night. And then also like whatever he gives you on the offensive end is just a bonus because you don't necessarily like need him to score a ton because he's really good at getting on that. When I looked at his statistic profile, like his game logs, he's really good at getting in that like 12 to 14 points per game. And I think that's all you really need because you have Abdi Bashir who can score. You're kind of going to be in a points by committee approach as well. And then the other thing that I would kind of lay out with this is the shooting from three. It is a little bit concerning, but I think that if you look at what he's done, and like you said, the 3.5 attempts per game means that he's probably taking the correct threes. It's just going to come down to can he make them? And then on the lead guard front, it's not a direct comparison. So kind of hear me out when I say this. But Baylor's national championship team, if you look at them, they didn't really have a point guard. Everybody kind of did it by committee. and they had 3 guys that could really handle the ball. If K-State were to get Andrej Kostic, who we're going to talk about in a few minutes, along with Elias Rapiak, those are 4 guys that can really handle the ball.
Yeah, that is the other thing, is that you're trying to look at how these guys fit in with the bigger picture. And the benefit is here. We were talking last week. You look at the team and you go, okay, like CJ Jones is probably your like second or third best player right now in terms of guys that might be like scorers for you. That's not going to fly. K-State added somebody that is higher in that pecking order on Sunday. Johnson's a good pickup. And you mentioned Rapiak. That is a situation where, K-State, it still seems like, is probably going to get things done there on the international front for a guy that, is probably going to be in the 3 to 4 realm positionally, but he has the ability to handle the ball some, and it'll be an interesting approach for K-State. And that's why, think if you get out to leads, I think it's good. I think if, things are going well, it's fine, but you're going to be in games where at the end, I still think you probably need a guy that you trust to handle the ball, even if he's just there to facilitate or, finish elsewhere. So I think that's probably a need that K-State still has. But we know that Rapiak still seems like somebody that might end up in the fold for K-State. And then another international route. For a while, it seemed like it might be Matthew Grujic. Now it seems like that might be shifting a little bit, and that, Andrej Kostic is a name for people to know. He is from Serbia, has been playing professionally over there. Strong numbers, good shooting, 18 years old. So again, young guy, room to grow here. What do you think the path beyond Johnson now looks like for K-State?
Yeah, I'd say that it would probably be those 2 European players. And I would even say that Kosic might be my favorite of all the European guys that we've talked about. He can really handle the ball. He's 6'6" and is more of a guard, and would just provide, again, another really good ball handler that could really facilitate and do things for K-State. But beyond that, I would look for another guy that can handle the ball. Like, and it doesn't necessarily need to be somebody that like knocks your socks off, but it's just somebody that can come in and provide depth at the guard position. Because again, the guards right now that would be on the bench are Xavier Wilson at the moment, and then David Castillo. And Castillo, I think, is going to be better off the ball. So get another guy that can come in and handle it as like your backup point guard or whatever you want to call it. And then you probably need somebody that can come in and play like major minutes at the 4.
Yeah. So if K-State gets this thing moving and they land the Europeans that it seems like the move would be, that would leave them, as we look at the roster as it stands right now, you'd have 4 more open spots. They probably would only be in the game of using 2 more of those, just knowing what we know with K-State, and the sentiment has been they'll use 13 of the 15 available scholarships. What would be, good enough for you to fill out the rest of this roster with the Europeans that we've talked about, and then knowing kind of the profile of guys that we think K-State should be looking for?
I would go get somebody that is playing at like a lower level and again is just a proven winner. Because really, outside of Abdi Bashir, the other 2 guys were in the NCAA tournament and have been close to making the NCAA tournament every single season that they've been in college. So get somebody that is a proven winner, can really provide something off the bench for you at a guard spot that can handle it. And then you probably want to do the same thing in like that 4 range. Like it could be a 3 or a 4, but somebody that can come in and play some major minutes, because I think there's a lot of minutes that could be thrown around at that 3 or 4 spot at the moment.
Yeah. We'll see how it transpires for K-State. They made a nice start to the finish yesterday, and you start to see the path a little bit more, and that's important in this, is that things have been so bad the last 2 seasons with the way that they've played out that you just need to be able to see a path. It doesn't mean it's going to work out, but there's at least an opportunity for things to get better and happen in a positive way. So we'll see what happens the rest of the way for K-State and how they continue to build this thing out. We'll keep you up to date with it right here on KSO, and you can go to KStateOnline.com to get more on that and also some football stuff as well, which a good reminder for everybody that if you're wanting to see the Cats open their football season, cats2ireland.com is the place to go for the 2025 Aer Lingus College Football Classic. It'll get you over there. It'll give you the best experience in Ireland. You'll get to watch the game and probably do a lot of other things that make your time over there a lot more enjoyable. So go to cats2ireland.com. Get it all taken care of for the game on August 23rd. We are 2 days away from being 4 months out from the start of K-State football in 2025. Drew, what is the Ireland fun fact to close the show today?
Today we're back on the animal grind. There are over 400 species of birds in Ireland. So if you're like somebody that loves bird watching and like doing that kind of stuff, Ireland is the place for you.
All right. Well, I'm not a bird watcher, but congratulations to those that are, and report back what birds you spot over there. I'll be honest, I don't know how people do it because most birds I look at and there's small birds, medium birds, and big birds. You see them and you're like, okay, that's a bigger bird. So that's probably a bigger bird is not a big bird, by the way. That would be like a medium bird. I'd say that's a bigger bird because, normally you see like a crow or I don't know what the generic kind of bird we see waltzing around Kansas is. So yeah, I've never had an interest in spotting birds. I can tell you the difference between like a duck and a goose and some of those aquatic based birds, but not the ones that you just see roaming parking lots or in the air. But no shot.
Those people are much more patient than I am.
Yeah. Well, or if I can tell you what a bird is, if they've got a baseball team named after
there you
them.
go.
So I can tell you what a cardinal looks like. I can tell you what a blue jay looks like, and I can tell you what an oriole looks like. When I see an oriole just out and about, I do kind of lose my mind. I'm like, that's a great looking bird. So there you go. I'm a big oriole guy right here, Mason both. So there you go.
But not the Orioles.
No, I don't like them. They kind of frustrate me to no end. They suck right now, though. So they have that going for them. There's a guy that writes for the Baltimore newspaper that I don't know what it is about him because he's just like reporting. He's just doing his job. But I'll see tweets pop up from him time to time, and I'm like, I hate you. Just because he covers the Baltimore Orioles. And it's not even – who's the guy that everybody always gets mad at?
Jason
LaCanfora. Yeah. It's not even him. That guy, occasionally I'll see stuff and I know that there's a history there of some kind, but I don't follow him as closely. It's just the actual beat writer for the Orioles. Nothing wrong with that guy. Every time I see him pop up on Twitter, I'm like, this freaking guy. We'll see. Hopefully I don't encounter him anymore in the near future. Oh my goodness. I'm a loser. We're recording this early Monday morning. I have to apologize for being a bad baseball fan. It's Patriots Day, and I haven't even turned on the Red Sox game yet, and they're already in the third inning. I love that the Red Sox play so early in the day on Patriots Day, and look at me just being a loser, not even having the game on yet. So we're going to get out of here. I'm going to turn on the Red Sox and White Sox because I want to punish myself. But we'll have fun in the coming days with some more K-State content for you. And once we get to Thursday, you won't see real me for a little bit. We'll have some pre-recorded stuff here. Drew and DY will have stuff covered over at KSO. I will be out of here for a little bit on baby duty, and then we'll reconvene and probably have some more significant news by the time I return to bringing the dailies here on the KSO YouTube and podcast. So we'll get out of here for today. We got more coming for you tomorrow, talking K-State football, and always ready if news breaks for the K-State basketball team with the transfer portal. So we'll get out of here and talk to you again tomorrow.